Welcome to the Mindful Spark. My name's Dave, and in this video we'll be covering the first in the Happiness is in Your Hands series, and it's called the 5 Pillars of Wellbeing. But just before we get into that, it can be helpful to understand the brain and the body. The brain is only 2% of the body mass, but yet it can use over 20% of the energy, of the resources of the body. So when we can learn to calm an overactive brain, we can help to reduce the amount of energy it's using up, the amount of bodily resources it's using up on us. And when we have a stressed body, we're going to have an anxious mind. And when we have an anxious mind, we're going to have a stressed body. So they're intertwined, and one directly affects the other. So through these videos, I'm going to demonstrate how we can do practical, simple, day-to-day tips and techniques that will help to calm the brain, calm the overactive thinking, connect back in with the body, and help it become more relaxed, softer, less rigid. And this should give us more energy and help us to deal with the trials and tribulations of life in a much more positive and beneficial way. So, the 5 pillars of well-being. They're sleep and rest, diet, exercise, social interaction, and self-awareness. And the medical community would generally agree that improving any of the aspects of these will have a positive chain reaction because each one affects the other. And as we improve one, it's probably going to improve the others and lead to a much happier, healthier body and healthier mind. Let's deal with the first one, sleep and rest. So we can divide sleep into 2, going to sleep and staying asleep. And a huge proportion of the population are sleep deprived and they're not getting enough sleep. And often the quality of their sleep isn't great. So what can we do to help be able to get to sleep? Well, the first thing is not waiting until we're exhausted and maybe going to bed that little bit earlier. But also, it can be helpful to transition from a busy day to being ready to go to sleep. So we can do things to habituate the body to get used to being ready to go to sleep. Things like writing out what we need to do for the next morning. And that helps take any anxiety out of the mind where it won't be processing during the night, worrying about what has to be done for the next day. Things like maybe having a small glass of warm milk, going for a walk, doing some light stretching or breathing exercises to calm the body down, to calm the mind down. Maybe having more ambient light, not having really strong bright lights in the bathroom when we go to wash our teeth just before we go to bed. It can be easier if we have much softer lighting. There are things we can do, and there's lots of information on the web on processes that we can do to help us be able to prepare for sleep. And a lovely tip I was given once was, if you are struggling and lying in bed and can't sleep, keep your eyes open and imagine that your eyelids are becoming very, very heavy. But while your eyelids are becoming heavy, your body is becoming lighter. And the lighter your body becomes, the heavier your eyelids come. And they want to close, but you're not going to let them. And actually, it's tricking the brain. So instead of fighting to try and go to sleep, we're actually saying, no, I'm going to try and stay awake. And as the eyelids start feeling heavier and heavier, they'll want to close. They'll want to close. And it's a lovely way of trying to help us to get to sleep. Many people can get to sleep, but they wake up. They struggle to have a good sleep pattern. And that can cause a lot of anxiety, being awake in the middle of the night and being concerned about being tired the next morning. And again, we can flip it. So if you do find yourself awake in the middle of the night, you can say, great, I'm going to try and do maybe the body scan or some of the meditation and mindful activities that we're going to learn in the Reclaim Your Past, Reset Your Future series. As we do mindful and meditative practices during the night, it will rejuvenate the body. It has a calming effect, and it will help us So when we get up in the morning, we will feel rested, and that anxiety about being tired can be removed. Meditation was once described to me as sleep is like unconscious meditation, but meditation is like conscious sleep. So as we meditate, a lot of the activity in the brain is very similar to the activity we'd have prior to going to sleep. During the day, rest is very important too. And as our stress levels, anxiety levels start building up, our sense of fatigue and exhaustion, we can do a thing called resetting. We can take anchors in our day, things like when we brush our teeth, when we put on the kettle, when we sit at a computer, when we walk to the car or the office. We can do activities that can help reduce our sense of stress and give us a sense of vitality and energy. Maybe when we're washing our teeth, we can squeeze our feet and relax them 4 times and try and lengthen our breath. See if we can make the inhale a little bit longer and the exhale a little bit longer. We can do the same when we put on the kettle. We can take a couple of moments to just start doing some breathing exercises. When we sit down at a computer, we can, rather than putting our hands straight on the keyboard, place them on the lap and take 4 deep breaths. When we're walking anywhere, rather than rushing, oh, I have to get to the office, oh, I have to, we can start changing it and going, I'm going to have a 5-minute walk now. And we can start noticing our surroundings. So rather being stuck in our internal thought loops, when we start trying to recognize something we haven't noticed before, it can be very helpful to get us out of our heads. The Buddhists have a lovely technique when we're walking to start noticing our heels and balls of the feet touching the ground. And again, it's a lovely way of getting us into our body, embodiment, getting us out of our heads. And again, that will give us a sense of space. A friend of mine once, when I was speaking to him about things he could do to maybe help him relax when he was just feeling a bit overwhelmed, I asked him to describe his day, and he said, oh, you know, I have to get up in the morning and sort out the kids and do this and do that, and then I've got an hour's bus ride into work, and then I have to, and I stopped him and I said, wait a minute, you've an hour of personal time where nobody's bothering you, where you can sit and meditate, do your breathing, revitalize yourself, just start understanding yourself a bit better. How lucky are you? And it's amazing how we can just flip what we're doing. So we don't have to change what we do in the day, but we can alter how we perceive it. Rather than his bus journey having to be a burden, he could turn it to maybe start reading good books that will help him. And he started doing that and found it very helpful. All of us could improve what we do in the day to have a better outcome. So that's sleep and rest. And science is also showing that an exhausted brain, sleep-deprived brain, is very similar to intoxicated brain. Removes us from our thinking part of the brain, and we're more reactive, and it affects our memory, and it affects our emotions, and it affects our body. So sleep and rest is really, really important. And as we do more rest, we're more likely to get better sleep. And as we get better sleep, we're more likely to rest. Again, it's a knock-on effect. Diet. What we eat will affect who we are and how we behave and how we think. You are what you eat, as the saying goes. But many of us go on crash boom diets and extremes. But a healthy diet, a balanced diet, will usually lead to a more balanced life. Because the brain needs lots of different types of fats to be able to operate. And it can be helpful to just notice what we eat and lean towards a more healthier lifestyle. Even taking 1 or 2 days a week and saying, maybe I'll go vegetarian, or eat more greens, or eat more fruit, consume less coffee, consume less alcohol. It's the little changes that we make over time have a long-term effect, rather than going crash boom. And serotonin, which is a happy hormone, 80% of it is produced in our guts. So it's very important. As a vagus nerve goes up through our body, and that communicates up. So having an upset stomach can impact on our mood. If we can be eating better foods, if we can be more aware of what foods affect us. Some people are affected by gluten. Other people can be affected by coffee and stimulants. As we start recognizing what we're consuming, it can have an effect on our mood. We can eat foods that will help to produce happier moods. Exercise. Exercise is a really key activity we can do to improve our lives. In the brain, if we exercise 20 minutes 3 times a week is all we need to do. And they've actually shown that we can get neurogenesis, where in the hippocampus in our brains, we'll actually be producing more neurons. So we'll have a healthier brain when we exercise, and we get endorphins. So our bodies are usually more relaxed. They're working better. The blood flow, the different systems in our bodies are going to be processing much better, and therefore we'll feel better about ourselves, and that has a knock-on effect to our emotions and our thoughts. Social interaction, really key. A lot of the research has shown that good, healthy interactions with different people can have a really positive effect on our sense of well-being, happiness, and connection to society and to other people, and to give us a sense of value and meaning. Even something like picking up the phone after this video and ringing somebody you haven't rang in a while, just checking in with them, and notice how it can affect you, and you can feel really good about yourself. And often we don't prioritize our relationships. We think that working hard or doing this or doing that, or I'll do it tomorrow, and we often don't make that call. So how can we improve our interactions? Another super way is the people you buy your tea or coffee of during the day, or the bus driver, people you interact with, maybe in the local shop, just asking their name, just giving them a smile. And it changes from an economic transaction to a social one, and you can start getting to know each other, and it really is a deep way of connecting and feeling much better about ourselves. And the last is self-awareness. So if we can sleep a bit better and more rested, if we're eating a little bit better, if we're exercising a little bit more, if we're interacting a little bit more, we tend to start becoming more self-aware, start noticing when our body's getting stressed. We can notice when we're going into thought loops. We're more aware of what we're eating and how it affects us. We know when we feel stodgy, and that a nice brisk walk can really make us feel invigorated, or a cold shower. It can be very soothing. As we become more self-aware, it starts impacting on the other 4 components of the pillars of well-being. Even slight changes in how we do our daily tasks can have a huge impact on our well-being. Smiling is a really super and simple way of getting happy hormones, dopamine and serotonin. It doesn't have to be big changes, it can be small changes. Thich Nhat Hanh once said, "Joy can be the source of our smile, but sometimes a smile can be the source of our joy." We can do simple things in the day to really improve how we feel. I hope that was interesting. Thank you for watching.